Great. Beautiful. Thank you, guys. So welcome to our session today. I'm just trying to get this machine that I've got here working. It's not wanting to play ball, so I do apologise for that. Let me just see if I can get that there. There's that one. Okay, so you'll be able to see my dashboard here. So welcome to the session today, which is on processing properties in the database from appraisals right through to settlement. There is quite a bit of content to go through today, but I will try and keep an eye on the questions coming through on the chat. So if you do have any on there, you're more than welcome to pop them in the chat, or if you would like to take yourself off mute and ask that question, that is by all means fine as well. So just a couple of little things before we get started. Obviously, for those of you who are brand new to Vault, just to let you know that down here on the left-hand side, you've got your Vault Hub, which has got a number of things around the webinars, the Knowledge Hub, and the bits and pieces in the database here. So we also have that on Whiteboard, as well as the calendar that obviously we're sending through each week with the different training sessions. So there is a lot of resources out there, so we do encourage you to go in and have a look at those. It's been sort of quite a bit of time and effort put into making those available both from the Vault team and obviously from our Ray White team. Okay, so big thing here, obviously within the database is when you're looking to search for properties, some of you who are brand new, have literally only just migrated, may not yet be used to using the blue search up the top, but obviously that does allow us to search the database. I'm just going to minimize this little Zoom screen that's sitting over the top here, move that down so that's not blocking my screen. So this is where you can obviously come in and you can search for both your properties and your people. So if I pop in here, avocado, it would bring back all the properties that I have in the database with that particular address or suburb that I was looking for. You'll see there it'll also note the status of the property. So if you've got multiple copies of the property in there, you can hopefully choose the correct one. And obviously with the databases that have been migrated, you will potentially have duplicates of properties. So that's where you can go in and clean those ones up at a later stage. So that little option, just so you're aware, just some housekeeping bits, lives in under the duplicate check. So where you've got multiple properties, the system is actually going to come back and display those to you. It's only going to display your not currently listed status. So it's only when they're not at a current status that they can be merged. But this is obviously where you'll have visibility of that. And if you've got those permissions, you can obviously merge the properties into one. Okay. Searching for properties, obviously, as I said, we've got the blue search button up here. We've also got the search button on the right-hand top side here, which brings you into the Find a Property screen. Obviously, for those of you who've got land listings, something to be remember and be mindful of, especially, as I said, for those who've just migrated, is land is its own classification now, so it's no longer found under residential. And for any of our rural businesses online here today as well, you'll also have a livestock and clearing sale option here. So they're obviously completely separate from the other ones here. With respect to land as well, if you put a land listings in as a residential and then you want to go in and change them, you can't change them. You actually have to re-enter them. And that's because the classification type can't be changed once you've created a record. So when you're looking for your properties, we can come in here, we can obviously search by the residential, commercial, etc. We can say we're looking for sale, for an appraisal, prospect, etc. And obviously you've got for sale or for lease being either commercial or residential. You also have the option to find by building names and agent and precincts in this screen here. And then you would obviously just go search based on whatever your parameters are that you've put in, and it's going to give you a list of the properties. It will note here which ones are published and are unpublished. So unpublished obviously means that it's only inside your database. It hasn't gone anywhere externally. And you can obviously see who the listing agent is, and who last updated those properties, and what have photos and what don't have photos. The other option you've got for looking for properties is under the filter button. So just gives you more options. For those offices where they've got branches set up within their database structures, this is where you can come in and choose the branch. So you're not looking at the entire database. If you're just looking for a particular branch listings, you can obviously come in and find those here. Once again, you've got the method of sale. Is it an auction? Is it a tender? Is it just a private treaty, which is obviously exclusive, etc. The agent's details. If you're looking for a list of your open homes, this is obviously where I can come in here and I can say, give me all the open homes for the next 7 days or next 14 days. So that actually lives in the filter option. You've got your building site, your property tags. This is just pulling through from the property tags that you've got on your property records, and also the photo tags, and the photo tags will be coming through and you can search on those as well. So let's just say I had properties in with cows on it, for example. I could come in and filter by, what have I got, cows, if I had that in there, and then I'd be able to filter that and it will give me a list. You've got your precincts, your property categories, if you've got those in play in your office database. And then we've got property attributes in here, in case you were wondering, well, how do I go and find all of the properties in a particular price range, etc. This is where that will live. And let me just check to see what I had here. Let me just change this to residential. So by changing this to residential, what you'll see here is it's now giving me the option to search by the number of bedrooms and the bathroom and the sort of standard attributes on the property. So for those of you who were wondering, how did I get that to display? You do need to make sure that you've got a property class selected so that it actually knows what the property attributes are to make available for you in this filter section. I am just going to take out that cows just so that doesn't complicate matters here. So when I'm ticking that, obviously that's what will give me that option. I've also got here the date details. So this is if I'm looking for all the properties that might have been appraised between a particular day, have a web live date, withdrawn, under offer, which were 3 bedrooms and a house, etc. Under auction. So the different little attribute ones here will obviously display based on the classification. And then you've obviously got your other options in here. And then I can go search in here as well. It gives me a list of the properties. Now you'll see when I'm in this section, it obviously returns the list in a slightly different format. It knows I'm going to potentially do different things with it. I can produce an open home list. I can view the properties on a map. If I want to create a distribution list based on the properties, I can obviously create those in here, and also the contact distribution. And if I'm wanting to assign them to a particular category, or update a property access if I'm an administrator who wants to do that, or update any of these fields, those are all done there on the filter piece. Okay, so I'm going to come across in here to the appraisal wizard. So the appraisal wizard obviously is here when I'm going to complete it. It's going to pop through here. Now for our Australian offices that are online, this is where you can obviously type in the person. What you're actually doing here is that the appraisal wizard is allowing you to create the contact card and the property card at the same time rather than do it separately. So if you were to go via the add property screen, it will add the property and then prompt you later on to do the contact. So when you're in this particular screen, it allows you to do both at the same time. So I can note here, is it a person or is it a company that I'm adding into the database at this point in time? So I'm actually going to say it's a person. I'm just going to say it's, who am I going to call? So let's just call Kevin, and you'll see there straight away it is duplicating or doing the duplicate check for me. So I could actually click on here, do the view duplicates, go, no, it's actually none of those, or yes, it is one of those people, and then I can open and continue and just add the property straight on from the contact card if that was the case. But in this instance, I'm going to pretend it's a new person. So I'm just going to go, it's Kevin Newby. I don't have a email address for him, but I have a TM phone number. And because I've got Price Finder turned on, to save myself some time, I'm just going to pull that property straight through from Price Finder. So let me just go and see if I can find it. Come on. This is when it sometimes will make a liar of you. Okay, let's just make sure that hasn't disconnected. Let me just come down to, sorry, my internet is just suddenly going slow, guys, so sorry about that. Let me just check this hasn't lost its connection. It is connected. I might end up having to manually pop this in. It looks like our internet is just running really slowly in here, guys. I do apologize for that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to add that in manually. So what I'm going to do here, now this is something to, even though this is the appraisal wizard, you can use this particular screen to just add in a property and a client if we know that the client owns a property. So in this case, I'm going to say it's not currently listed. And I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to pop in the street address. So I'm going to go 3 Maple Street. Atherton. And who's got access to this? It's only me in this instance. Now, if I wanted to change this here to make it an appraisal, what you will see is it will allow me to put in and create the appraisal time straight away, and it will look at my calendar. Now, in this instance, my calendar is not connected to the database, so I can't see my appointments. But if your Google Calendar is synchronized with the database, it will allow you to see if you've got other appointments on the day, and you can obviously schedule it around your existing appointments that you have. So if I go the 29th, and what it would do, you can see here mine saying there's no events, and that's because obviously my calendar is not connected. But if it was and I had other appointments on the 29th, it would be showing them here, and then I can actually slot in that appraisal to reflect the date and time that I want it to be happening. Once I pop that in, so let's just put in a time, let's just say that it's 10:30. So if I tab there, and what you'll see here is it then gives me the option to do a follow-up reminder email to the client, and I can also do it as an SMS as well. So it's allowing you to do that in the one screen if you so desire to do that. If you don't want to, obviously you would just leave those unticked, and then you go, yep, that's right to go, and I can add my appraisal in. And that's literally how easy. Oh, did I not? Oh. Okay, so I obviously didn't choose that correctly. Sorry, that was poor driving on my part. Atherton, let's choose that one. And now it's added it in, it's linked to the client, and it's put the calendar event into my calendar for me. So if I had my Google Calendar, my Ray White Google Calendar on, it'll obviously pop it straight into that as well as the Vault one. So now I can go into the property. And obviously I've got all of the details on that property record here. If I pulled it through from Price Finder, obviously you would have the additional details here about the bed, bath, the land area, etc. So I'm just going to pop in a couple of little things here just to get this one started. And that's all I'm going to put in on that one. Now, when I come down the screen here, what you will see here is obviously got your heading and your text and your bits and pieces. Now the tenancy details here is so that you can note if the property is tenanted, you can note those details here about the tenant. So I can obviously say that it's tenanted, and I can obviously pop the tenant names in here, when it's starting, when it's ending. So I've got all of those details when I'm out and about as well. And obviously when you're if you're the person who's putting in your headline and text for the advertising, this is where you're going to add that in here. You'll note one of the key little differences here is when you add bullet points, now you actually add the bullet point from the green button, and then you add in the text in here. So you're not copying and pasting, so you're just adding them, you know, in here. And you just keep adding. You've got brochure text in here, and obviously you've got the ability as well to pop in a little description here for use on the mobile as well, so that you don't have to look at the full ad. You can just have a brief description of your ad if you want it in here. External links will show your website listing. So once that's obviously published live, it'll feed back here, show your office website and the relevant number, which will also go out in your e-table. So that can be included. And you've got your details down here. Now, a couple of the little things, just points of difference here really. You can see here that I have the ability to view and read this particular property, and I also have edit access on it. So you can see here in this sample one here, not everyone has the ability to see this. So depending on your databases and the offices you work in, if you've got an open database, typically everything will be set to show as probably everyone. But if mine's a closed database, in this particular example, I can actually go in and I can say I'm also going to give Tamara the ability to view and edit this one. So I'm going to add her in on the side here as well. Now, if I'm part of a team, what I can actually do here is I can just go and pick up my team, and everyone that is in that team will automatically have the ability to view and read this data and also edit this particular client and property. So I'm just going to add and edit there and then pop that on. Now, while I'm down the bottom of that screen as well, I just come down here. What you'll see is it's saying who is the contact inquiry staff member. So this is the salesperson's details that will be showing on the web listings for you. So I can actually view, read, edit, access down here, so I can't even talk. But I can actually say the listing agent on this particular property is actually Daniel. So he's the one that is going to be showing on the listing online. So I can actually go save and close, but I still have the ability, obviously, to add and edit it. Now, you will note here, I've got the little pop out here, which lives on both your property cards and on your contact cards. Now, when you pop that out, that allows you to see the details about the owner on the property. And if this property had progressed to the point where a purchase was on it, I would also be able to see the purchaser. When I flick across here onto the owners tab, I can see the same thing, but in reverse, and now I can actually see the properties that that particular person owns. So I can see here that I've got, let me just drag this other window down, sorry, which is sitting right on the top of that. So I can see here that Kevin is currently the owner of 3 Maple Street, Atherton. So I don't necessarily need to tab across to see that information. I can actually just use those little pop-out tools here. And obviously, as you can see here, when you're on the contact card, I can also see any calendar items, tasks, categories that the particular client is in, and I've also got the different details and bits and pieces on the particular contact card that I'm looking at. Okay, so if I want to add, so I'm just looking at my notes here, the things to cover off. I'm just going to do them in a slightly different order to what's on that little form here. So what we've got in our property here is, in this instance, we can see that there's no photo in here. Now, if you're looking at this here and going, oh, when I look at my database, I don't see my photo. So the photo for Dan in this instance, your photo pulls through from my Ray White. So as long as you've got your photo in my Ray White, when you log into the database, it's going to pull those details about yourself and your photo across into the database, and that's what's going to show there. If you don't have a photo loaded up in my Ray White, you'll just show with the avatar and a blank. Okay, so we've got the photos in here. Now, obviously in this one, I'm not going to have any photos. So and just because of the machine I'm on, there won't be any photos for me to pull through. So what I'm going to do is just pull through this one here. Oh, that one hasn't got any. Let me just choose the other one. And you can see here in this instance, the property is both for sale and for lease at the same time. So that is one of the key differences now between Vault and My Desktop. So in My Desktop, a lot of offices had cloned properties where the properties were for sale and for rent. Now you don't need to do that. I can actually say the property is currently for sale and it is also for rent. So when I come here into the photos section, I've got obviously the different photos. Now, one of the things that you do have in the database is your photographers can now load photos direct into the database for you against the listings. When that happens, an email will be sent from the database to both your administrator and also the listing agent to advise them that the photos are now loaded up on the property. So when the photos are loaded up as a default, they will sit in as an unpublished photo, and you will come in and tell the system how to, that you want to include that one, and it is actually going to be published online when you send it up. You can obviously put captions and bits and pieces in here as well. And we do recommend that you load high-res images, not low-res. So there's no reason for loading low-res images into the database. It doesn't want them. It doesn't require low-res images for anything. When you load your high-res images up, the system is going to resize those accordingly, depending on which sites you select to send your listing to. So each site has slightly different specifications on what they require for images. So what happens in the back end of the database is when you tick those websites that you want to send it to, Vault is then looking and talking to those different websites and resizing the photos to suit each of those, and it sends them up in the size that they require. So while you load the high res ones, it's not going to be sending like a 20 times 12 meg images to a particular site. It might be resizing them down to a much smaller size. So you can see all of those bits and pieces here. I can obviously do a detail view or a grid sort view, so you can obviously change that. So if I change the grid view, you can see here it just changes the view for me. So it just depends how you like to view the photos. So I'm just pausing here. I can see here I've got a photo. How do you download only one photo from the section? Sorry, if you're downloading, I don't understand the question. Sorry, Barb. Are you wanting to download it from the database for somewhere else? Okay, so what you can do there is, if I just come back here, you'll see here, you actually can't download one, to be quite honest, because normally you choose the ones that you upload. So if you've uploaded them, they're all sitting there, and you've typically uploaded them from another source. So if you wanted, there's no way to just download one. So when you go download all, you'll see there it's only going to give you the option to download them all. So you'd have to download them all and then obviously delete the ones that you don't need, because it's typically you're uploading photos into the database. You're not downloading them sort of one at a time. I'll just close that one down there. Okay, so you'll see here, as I said, you can put captions on there. So that's just used in different sections here. You've got your open homes. This is going to show you any of the open homes that you've got scheduled here. I can go to my calendar. I've obviously got QR codes, and we can see here on this particular one, we've got a number of open homes in here. So that all lives in there. And we've got, I was just going to go back here to the tags actually. So I'm just skipping back here to the tags. The tags are so that you can type in words that you want to have on this particular property. So think of tags as a customized field on this particular property, but is available to be used to filter the database. So you would have noticed before when I was in the filter properties option, I could filter by my property tags, and this is the area that it's referring to. So in the database, there's quite a variety of standard features. Obviously, there's bedrooms and bathrooms, and if I come here to features, I can tick whether there's aircon, you know, whether there's an outdoor pool, views, etc., etc., etc. And that list obviously has different bits and pieces in it. Now, not everything that you want to note on a property is going to be an existing field, and that's just a reality. And you might have a particular word that you call something that no one else in your office or in another offices use that word. So by adding the tag in here, it allows you to create, if you like, almost a semi little filter on the individual properties as you're putting them in. So if I wanted to put in on this one here, that it also has a artist's room set up. I'm thinking of something that artist room, artist studio. Let me just pop that in here. So I can add that in. So what that actually allows me to now do is in my filter properties option, I could actually go through and say, give me all the properties where they've got an artist studio attached to them. So I haven't had to do anything tricky to do that. I've literally just created a tag and added that in here. And you can see here we've got different tags on here that we've already created in the database, so I can just add them from this particular one here. So if I wanted to put in wheelchair access, I could just add that in from this particular list that our office has already got in play, where we've already got different tags sitting on different properties. So I don't have to create them every single time. If I know I've created it once, I can then just come in and pick it out of the list and use that one in here. So I can go, actually it's renovators. If I want to say it's a renovators delight, for example, as a tag, I can pop that in here. Now, what you will also see in this tag section is that it is every time you upload photos, the system is scanning those photos and it's creating tags based on what it can see in the photos. So you can see here it's saying that there's a path, there's a sleeve, there's a tree. You probably wouldn't normally have human and sleeve and trees because it's normally about the property, but in our particular property here, we've got a person in one of our images that we've got in. So you can see there's concrete, there's a car, obviously one of the photos. So what it's doing is it's scanning the photos that you're putting in every time that you put them in, and it's coming through and giving you tags on those photos. And that's where you will have seen again on the filter there, I can filter all the properties based on the photo tags that are being created by the system itself. And what it's doing there is that's just to give you more flexibility when you're finding properties within the database. If you don't know exactly the address, you might go, it's got a swimming pool and it's on the beachfront or something. So you can use those tags to search that by. Okay, so I touched briefly on the open homes. Obviously, you can schedule your open homes in there. That's obviously going to feed those all up to the website. Now, what you will see here when you tag your different open homes and you put the changes in, what I won't see on my particular property because we're not linked to any websites, but in your office databases, what you will see is you will have your visibility here, and it's going to show you the website integrations that your office currently has in place. So once the websites are ticked, that is where the system is going to be able to note for you the current status of this particular listing in relation to the last update that's going to the site. So where you've in the past gone, for example, I can't see my listing on REA, and your admin team have had to log into the REA backend, have a look at the XML status, and then they can say, oh, look, it's missing bedrooms or bathrooms, or we don't have a photo on there. Now the system is going to show you that real time, and it's going to note here if there's any errors on your listing. So if you can't see your listing online, what I would recommend is that you come in and you actually have a look at the status here against the individual property, and it's actually going to tell you. So it's going to show you if there's any errors, you will see the errors that are being fed back from that particular website and why it's not able to be shown on mine. What you will also see under the activity tab is you will actually see in the back end here, you would actually see the fact that it's sent it to Ray White, success, sent it to REA, success. So you'll see in the back end here as well. Every time that property is updated, the activity is tracking the integrations with those various websites to note, hey, this has now been updated. Sometimes when you're looking at it, you'll see REA will say loaded, pending, and then the next little line will say success. So that just shows you what's happening in the queue on your particular properties in relation to where they're being published and bits and pieces. Okay, so I'm going to come across here to the filing cabinet. The filing cabinet is where you can, as it says here, click and drag and you can load documents up. You'll obviously have different folders here. Now, some offices have created their own little subset of folders in here as well. So you can obviously load them up, pop it in here. Now, because the property record in Vault is created once and it will have obviously multiple lives, either as for rent or for sale, every time your property has settled and closed off and gone back to a not currently listed status, the system will also compartmentalise all of the records, all of the filing cabinet documents that related to that past life. Now, don't stress, because you can go and access and review those. And what you'll see here in this instance is mine is defaulting to the current life of this particular property. But if I wanted to go and view all the documentation, the contract, the CMA, etc., that related to the previous time or the previous times that we had listed and sold this property, I can actually go in and find that by selecting the past life. And then what it would do, you'll see here, it's then pulled through all of the filing cabinet documents for that past life. So it's not losing any of the documents, it's simply compartmentalising them and essentially locking them down, if you like, with each transaction that you do on that particular property. But when you come in here, the default will be that it shows you the current life and the current documents that are in play. So this is where you should have your CMAs, your copy of your Form 6s if you're in Queensland, for your listing forms, all of the bits and pieces that you've got loaded up in here. That then also feeds through to the electronic table, and this is where I can choose the items that I want to have in my electronic table. Now, the electronic table is just about, instead of you putting in a number of attachments on the particular property, that you're actually going to send through the link here for the client, and it's going to contain all of the documents that you've got selected in your electronic table. So that's where that pulls through from. Okay, so while we're in this little section here, I'm just going to jump down on the left-hand side here. Now, if you're wanting to send your properties to Brand Central, this is where you've got the Brand Central button. You'll just simply click on it, you'll go Send Property, and that's going to send that property through to Brand Central. And obviously you can see on here, it's going to tell you if it knows there's information that it requires before it can send it. So because I've said this property is a listing, it actually is telling me there's an error on it because it knows it needs a headline if I'm telling it's a listing. So I have to go and put that in, then save it, and then I will be able to push it through. So if I close that off, but that's where you send that through from here. This is where you've also got your BScene integration. So for the offices where you're using your BScene, this is where I can come in, I can order the piece from BScene that I want, and you'll see here it's all just a drop down option. You're selecting the bits and pieces that you want, you're putting in the start date, and you're putting any additional instructions here for the BScene team. So when they that comes into their queue at their end, obviously they can pick that up and they process that. So it literally is now just other tab and either Brand Central, BScene, or Price Finder for that matter, if I'm wanting to go out and do a CMA on this particular property. So what I can do is I can click on the Price Finder button. I'm hoping that Price Finder might work this time. And what it does is it comes in here, gives me these details. If I want to go and do in a CMA or do a price finder estimate, obviously I can pull that through here. So I can just go, let's just go CMA. Is it going to do it? Oh, Sorry, it doesn't normally do that, so it's obviously having a little connection today. No, it's not liking me today. Sorry, guys. Normally that would just pop through and it would pop into your price finder screen, and then it would load it up for you and you would complete it. So when that's, sorry, this is my machine. It's now having a little think. Just hope it comes back to life. Let me just see if I can get that back. Yeah. Sorry, my machine is being very cranky. No, it does not want to close that, so I'll just work on the screen. So that's where you would normally pop that through. While we're in this little section here on the tabs, you've got your canned responses. This is something that is different to what we had in my desktop, and hopefully you're all now sort of aware that this piece sits here. This is where your canned responses are preloaded and available for you to send out on any inquiry that's coming through. So we no longer have that piece in place where you go in and you set up the canned responses like for REA, Domain, Ray White, etc. Now you set up the canned responses on the individual properties and you build them, you preload them in here, and then you essentially come in and say, apply that particular one. Now, in case some of you are looking at this and going, oh my God, I don't think we've got those on, I don't think we've got them set up. To create the canned responses, we just click on the create email response down here. You give it a name because we're actually creating a template that is, if you like, canned response that is bespoke for this particular property. So I'm just going to, what property am I on? 330, I think. I'm just going to call it 330 Flinders. I give it an email subject, and this is just going to be, going to pop that in there. And what I'm going to do down here is I don't want to have to create this email canned response from scratch. I can do if I want to, and you'll see here I've got my merge fields that I can use. So I can go, hi, Mary, or whatever. So I simply insert the merge fields that I want to use here in the canned response if I'm setting it up from scratch. But what we recommend is that your offices will have templates in play. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to choose one. Let me just choose a auction one. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to preload the standard generic auction residential inquiry one. So I don't have to think about it. It's all there. And this is what we recommend your offices set up for you. So you can obviously set up the templates. You can just pull them through. You'll see there it's already got all the merge fields and everything in there. I can still come in and add additional information into this particular canned response. So while they're templated, they can still be bespoke. I can still go in, I can still add additional details in there. I can see, say here who it's coming from. So the default when you're on the listing is it's going to send the canned response from the listing agent. But if for some reason, let's just say Tamara was away and she's on leave and I want it to come from me because I'm looking after her bits and pieces, I could simply choose my name, which means it would come from me. I can also CC someone else on it. So this is where some of our salespeople, where they have PAs that work with them, they might have the response going out, but they might copy their PA on it here. Where do you go and create and save the template? Okay, so Andrew, what I'll show you here is on this one. So are you talking about the master template, Andrew? I'm not sure if that was a yes or a no. Oh, yes, okay. So your templates that I chose from the drop-down list, they will all live in under your, where is it? Under your settings and your e-marketing. Now, you may or may not have access to this section. So if you don't, that's where your admin team will have gone in and set up the templates for you. So as part of your migration, if you're an office that's just recently migrated, all of the templates that you had in My Desktop will have come across. And they'll all be sitting here. But this is where, if you've got permissions to create them, obviously you can come in and you can create the template, the raw template that you want to use. If you don't have permission to create them, just get your admin to set them up. And what you'll see here is when we create a template for the office, we can come in and we can actually say, is that template available for all of the staff in our office to use? Or is it restricted to a particular staff member or only selected staff members in the office? So typically where offices have set them up, they will default them to everyone, and you should then just be able to choose those particular templates from that drop-down list. If you don't have any, to choose from at all, that would suggest that you need to get those created. But as I said, when you're on the individual property, I can create the template from scratch. So you will have standard templates that are part of that come standard with the database. So you'll see here, what have we got on them? We've got, this is probably a bad one to choose. So you will have standard ones there that are the private treaty, the auction, etc., that you can pull straight through from our base templates. So hopefully that answered that question for you, Andrew. So I'll come back in and create, beautiful, thank you. I'll go back to my 330 Flinders. I'll just pull this one back up. I'll go to the sale and I'll come back to that canned response. So I'm just going to come back and revisit this one here because this is where it's something that you need to have set up, because what will be happening is any inquiry that comes in off your listings will be going into the holding area. And if you have inquiry coming in and you don't have any canned responses set up, essentially the people that are inquiring on the property are not getting any acknowledgement of their inquiry being received, if you like. So this is where you do want to come in and create those. Now, once I've created it, you'll see here this particular one, I'm just going to edit this one just so that it's more obvious. I'm just going to give it a different name. So let's just call it week 1 of auction campaign. I'm just going to go and save that. And you can see there as well, if I've created one and I've completely stuffed it up, I can also remove it in entirety. So I can pop that in there. So I'm just going to save that. So you'll see here now I've got my template up here. Now, because I changed the name, it's obviously changed it automatically there in the holding area. But I did that just to make it obvious to you so you could actually see that this is the campaign that the canned response we've created. This is, the subject's going to go out, it's got the blurb there. So anyone who inquires on this property at the moment is going to get this particular canned response back. Now, what you can do is you can preload a number of canned responses in here. So for example, if this was an auction property, I might have preloaded more than one canned response. And then what I'm doing in each week of the auction campaign is I'm coming in and I'm just simply changing that campaign, that canned response that is going out. So I'm just going to make this one a week before auction, for example. I don't have any template potentially set up for this. So I'm just going to, quickly make one up. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you how easy it is to create these. So I'm just going to go hi, first name, So what you can do with your auction properties is you can have a preset template where you might have something, anyone who inquires on it the week leading into the auction, you want to be able to include on it things about if they're looking to bid, you know, the registration, etc., etc. So you'll actually have a slightly different template on there. You can, as you can see here, I can include attachments, so I can attach my details on how to bid, requirements for registration, all of those details. I can preset all of those in my canned response. Now what you'll see here is it adds in that canned response here. So if it was an auction campaign, I can preload these all right at the beginning, and then each week I'm just coming in and all I'm doing, I'm just going to pretend that this week is the week this property is going to auction, is I'm going to change that one and say now use that particular canned response for this particular property, which means that as any inquiry coming forward on this property now, people are going to get a different response. And that just means if someone inquires it on week 1 and week 5 or week 4, they actually get a different response on that particular property that they're inquiring on. So that's how you can do that there. Okay, so we've got our buyers match. I'm going to click through here to our owner feedback here. So the owner feedback is where we come in, and this is where you've got your, if you like, your vendor report, which we used to have in my desktop. You can see here the current life. So think back to where I was saying with the filing cabinet, same logic here. If this property has been listed and sold a number of times, what we would be doing is we would be coming in here and we'd be saying we want to look at all of the vendor report data that was pertained to the previous life that we had on this particular property. So I can actually go, give me the withdrawn one. I'd obviously change the date range and it would then pull through all of the inquiry for that past transaction. So I've got all my details in here, my open homes, my chickens, any active pipe, my QR code bits and pieces. So it's all just feeding through here and it's available for you obviously to do those reports. You can also create your contact distribution list in here. So quite often we get asked about people, they from salespeople, they want to do their contact distribution list because they now want to email people something or they want to send them out something. So this is where I can come in here, excuse me, create the distribution list of all the people that have currently inquired on the property. I can select them all, bits and pieces, give it a name, and then that contact distribution list will become available in my filter contacts. So what I will do is I'll just call that attendee so you can see how this works. You'll see here it's including all feedback, and I can obviously choose selective feedback if I want to. So I'm just going to go back and go create a list. And what I'm going to do, I might not want to do anything now with that. I'm going to create my list and then I'm going to go and do my email later. So where you will see that distribution list, if I close that and just scroll up here, if I come into the contacts and I come down to filter contacts, and what I'll see down here is I'll have my distribution list here that I've just created. So your distribution lists stay in place within the database for 48 hours. And every 48 hours, the system is removing any of those distribution lists that it no longer needs. So your distribution lists, think of they're the old smart category that we used to have in my desktop. They last and are available in the database for 48 hours. And after that, at that point, they're deleted. And then obviously you would need to recreate those lists. So if I come back here to the 330, and I'll pick the right one here, go to the sale. Now, sometimes you'll be required to provide the life ID of the property. This is where that lives in up here. And you've also got your little spanner here. This is where if you've got permission to delete properties, you'll have that option. You can obviously clone a property and you will have those same permissions here on your contact card. So if I go to Mary Poppins over here, what I will see here is I've got a little spanner option on this card for the contact. And this is where I can unlink them from the property. I can attach another owner and I can duplicate check here as well. Or I can attach another property for my client. So that's where you can do it on the contact card as well. The Processing of the sale is really easy, and I'm just conscious that I've only got 7 minutes. So as I said, there's a lot of content in this section. If I need to withdraw my listing, obviously I've got the withdraw button here. If I'm going to mark it as under sale, I'm going to go to the under offer button here, and I'm going to fill in the details for the client. So you can see here it's got, this is pre-ticked for the concierge services. Now this is not the utility connections. So the connections for water, power, gas, the entertainment pieces is the Ray White Home Now guys. So this is your Ray White concierge call. So if for some reason you don't want those clients to receive that call from the concierge team, you obviously would untick those details there, which means it doesn't go to the concierge team. What it's then doing when you're coming down here is it's saying the portable visibility of this particular listing is that it is going to set this property as under offer. Now, if for some reason your office wants to keep it as a listing and available, that is where they get the opportunity to set that as a listing and saying it's still essentially for sale. Now, my qualifier around that is if you've got a big under contract sticker on the signboard out the front, you need to have it as set under offer online as well, because otherwise you've got a contradiction of terms in the system based on what people can see if they're driving past. So is it private treaty? Is it auction? This is essentially so that it's feeding through the right details around auction sales and private sales. How much is the property sold for? So let's just say it's sold for $550. Commission, I'm just putting in easy numbers to make this easy. You'll see here it defaults to exclusive of GST, but if the amount you've been given, if you're an administrator, is only the inclusive amount, I can obviously note that this is the inclusive amount of the GST, the 10,000, as opposed to the exclusive, but it is a defaulting to exclusive. How much deposit? When is the deposit due? What is the date of the contract of the property? So let's just say it was the 1st of July. When is it expected to go unconditional? 29th. And let's just say that it's settling next month. Who is the split? Who are the splits on the particular listing, sale for sales purposes? So is it all myself that is getting that sale, or am I going to add in another salesperson here? So as soon as I add in another salesperson, so let's just say that it's Liz, it automatically changes the split here. Now, don't freak out about that, because if it's not a 50-50 split and it's a 60-40 or a 70-20 or whatever, you would just simply override that and you would actually tell the system what the split is. So let's just say it's 50-30, and then I tab, and I've done this deliberately so you can see that it's going to come up and tell me that it doesn't balance. And I've done that deliberately because I want to add in someone else, and I actually want to say is a conjuncting agent in this case. So now I'm going to say that it's Ray White next door in this instance, and they're getting the 20%. And then it will come back and show you that it's balanced. So same logic as in the past, it has to add to 100% in order for it to progress through. And then I can obviously set that one as under offer. I can then proceed to the financials. So if someone is going to go and then do the agent allocation, that's when they'll come in, do the money side of it, allocate the monies out, etc., etc. You've got your solicitors here, and you've obviously got the advertising and bits and pieces that live in under the property over there. So that's where they would push that through. So once the property goes unconditional, obviously I'm just simply clicking on the unconditional, and then once it goes unconditional, you will also be prompted then to go in and settle it. So it's if you like the big green buttons, and if for some reason you need to convert it back or withdraw it, it's the red buttons, or if you need to modify it, it's the red button as well. So where it's sort of green for go, keep moving forward, it's obviously green, and where you're sort of changing or making adjustments or pushing it back, it'll be the red button in there. So that's how you can settle and then withdraw them fairly easily. You don't have to do anything really difficult to do anything under there. So I can also have here the offers. So I can add in new offers. So I can pop in offers on this property. So this is where it's probably a little function that we didn't really have in my desktop. You can actually come in and note the offers that people have put in on the property without putting it under offer online. So if you've got multiple offers on the property, I can actually keep a track of them here. I can put all the details and bits and pieces in on this particular screen here. So that's on the little offers button that sits in here. And for those of you who were eagle-eyed, you would have seen there was an option for me to choose from the offers on that one when I processed it. Okay, I think we'll call that done and dusted for the day. If you do have any questions, more than welcome to send me an email through, and we'll definitely get back to you with the answer on that. Thanks for attending and have a great day.